Oh, hi, you guys! Surprise! I was planning to record this video for a while now. And yes, this is the SBA talk I did a couple of Fridays ago. But first of all, I wanted to give you a big thank you for being here. If this is like your first month, if this is your last month, thank you for being here and thank you for supporting me. I feel like something that I always I don't know, admire about the people in the US and Canada is that you guys celebrate Thanksgiving, and we don't have Thanksgiving in Chile. But I've always thought it was so endearing and lovely to give thanks and to be grateful about, like, counting your blessings and being grateful about what you have and the people who are around you and your friends and family and the family you choose. So thank you so much, guys, for being here and your support. Seriously, especially this year. Like, seriously. So I wanted to give you a big thanks by sharing this talk. I hope it's going to be useful for you. Just a quick announcement. I film these videos in my studio, like in Brooklyn, and it's going to be super noisy, as you can tell. So I really apologize for the noise in advance. So yeah, you guys, I hope you enjoy this talk, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, hello guys. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm recording this from my flat because I realize it's going to be super noisy if I recorded this at the studio. So welcome to my flat. You can't see it, it's fine. So hello, welcome to the presentation. I'm Fran, nice to meet you. This is usually what I do when I do a talk, you guys. I like to introduce myself, and I always try to write my name down on presentations because I feel like, I don't know why, I feel like it's more memorable for people to see your name written down on the first slide, and then rather than just saying it out loud. And since my name and my accent, there are both tricky things, I would rather say it out loud. And so people, I don't know, I feel like people remember most things when they see them rather than hear them. I don't know if that makes any sense. So hello, welcome to this presentation. I'm Fran. So here I usually say something like, so I'm an illustrator and I come from Chile. That's why I have a funny accent, and I draw. This is what I do for a living. So every time I do a talk, you guys, I tend not to put my portfolio or my work in the beginning. And every time this happens, I regret it a lot, because I realize that, like I said, you never know who is going to see your talk or watch your talk. And I found it very useful to get to know the person before you begin, because again, like, it's so interesting to see what they're doing and what they're working. And the feedback that I get most of the times from my talk is like, or like the talks that I have done is like, oh, I wish I could have seen more of your work. So here it is, you guys. This is my portfolio. This is my website. These are all some of the projects that I have done. I also spend a lot of time trying to update my social media. I upload videos and comics. I love doing mini comics on Instagram and on Twitter, where I talk about my life and what it feels like to be a freelancer nowadays. Part of what I do also has to do with my my online store. I also have an online store called We Are Nice Humans, where I sell stationery, like ethical stationery and ethical apparel, t-shirts. Last year, September last year, I launched We Are Nice Humans, and we get t-shirts, like secondhand t-shirts, and we print them. And this is the website. I also spend time with my patrons. I have a Patreon platform that has grown a lot in the past couple of years, and I love the community that has been we have fostered on that platform. And also in my spare time, I love to do YouTube videos where I talk about illustration and freelancing and my life at my Brooklyn studio. And I love showing this side of my life with people because I wish I could have seen that when I was starting with illustration. So every time I do a talk, you guys, I like to ask the people who are organizing the talk if they could guide me into what they want me to talk about, because most of the times the people, if not all of the times, the people who are organizing the talk, they know better what their audience wants. And in this case, the Cartoon Allies, which I don't know if I had no idea what Cartoon Allies was before doing this, but they are illustration / drawing / comic club at the SVA, the School of Visual Arts here in New York City. And they meet weekly, and sometimes they invite illustrators over to do talks and whatnot. And when they invited me, I was like, hey, do you want me to talk about something specifically? Because I could, like, I don't know, like improvise something and talk about something that I think could be useful for them. But most of the times they know better what their audience wants. And I'm so happy I asked them, you guys, because they were like, hey, we ask the members, and these are all the topics that we want you to talk about. And the topics are the balance between social media and the internet as an artist, which is super interesting and important subject, because nowadays as artists we have to both do art but also manage our presence online. We're also going to talk about how to stay positive with yourself and your art during hard times. And this is not only about now the pandemic, but in general, like if you're going to through really stressful period of time or mental health issues. They also asked me to talk about working abroad and my experience working abroad, but now applied to study online through Zoom or even working online. And last but not least, how to be environmentally conscious as an artist and as a store owner. And at the end, there was like a Q&A scheduled for like the end of the presentation. So anyway, so the first topic, you guys, is how to balance using social media and internet as an artist. And I remember in the beginning, and you can tell this is the beginning because I had like very long hair. My hair wasn't pink. And I had bangs that I miss having bangs, actually. And in the beginning, you guys, this was like, 2014 or something like that. But in the beginning, I remember I was posting around 2 to 3 times a week on Instagram. And you guys, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we had no idea, and I'm sure most of you were already using social media, but like, I remember I had no idea what I was doing. There were no blogs talking about like how to use social media or when is the best time to post, pictures on Instagram. We had no idea what we were doing. We were kind of like doing everything intuitively. And I remember at the time I started with my online store, and intuitively I'm like, I need to have an audience for me to show my work. That's the only way I'm going to get sales on my online store. And that's the only way I can clients or potential clients or agencies or publishers can get to know myself and my work. So without even knowing it, you guys, I was building / cultivating an audience. I know this is like a very used sentence right now, like cultivating an audience, but this is exactly, you guys, what I was trying to do in the beginning, very intuitively. And I think it's important to post consistently, at least in the beginning, because it helps you to build trust. I feel like you need to build trust with the people who are following you, because they need to know that you're going to be around and you're not going anywhere. Most of the issues that I see online with people who are asking me for help or guidance are people that are not, for example, having the patrons that they wanted to have, or they're not having the sales that they wanted to have on their online store, or they're not having the engagement that they wanted to have. And what I see, you guys, is that most of the times these platforms, they're fairly new or they're not posting frequently. And if you see it on the other way around, me as an audience, why am I going to trust you if you're barely posting, or your social media platform is fairly new? Like, how do I know you're going to be there? How I'm going to know that you're not going anywhere, that you're not going to stop doing this podcast 1 month from now? So this is the first thing that you need to build, is this trust with your audience. The second thing is make yourself reliable. So like for people to look forward to your content, this could be in the shape of like a schedule. So I'm going to post Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I know that every Tuesday and Thursday, this amazing illustrator is going to post stuff on Instagram or is going to upload a YouTube video. So it makes me like want and like, I don't know, like, have this expectation like, oh my God, I know this person is going to upload. So it generates and like it creates this like looking forward feeling to see your content. Also build a connection. This is exactly, you guys, what like when you're in the beginning of a relationship or a friendship, you have to build a connection with these people, because it's the only way to also build a trust with them. So this is a very genuine, like, important question. Like, why is this important in the first place? And I'm so happy you're asking, because people, you guys, will follow you if they feel connected to you. And by follow you, I mean, for example, if tomorrow Instagram, you guys, disappears, and you're like switching platforms to, I don't know, like Twitch or YouTube or Twitter or this other Instagram dupe platform, they're going to follow you no matter where you go. And this is super important because it also translates, for example, to if you do a product launch, if you do a personal project, if you collaborate with someone or with a brand, they're going to be there for you. Also, followers will support you when they feel they want to give back to you. And by support you, I mean financially. So I don't know if you have ever felt like this in the past, you guys, but like, I remember in the beginning of YouTube, I remember I was like watching all of these creators, and I felt like they kept me company through such harsh and stressful times. And I felt like I knew them, and they were there for me, and they were keeping me company. And I feel like I was growing this like almost relationship with them, like this friendship with them. And every time they launch something like crowdfunding, I don't know, like project, or if they were launching merch, or if they were doing a signing or a meetup, I feel like I wanted to support them, because I feel like I owe them. I feel like they were doing so much for me that I wanted to support them. And this is exactly what like that connection is so priceless to build and to create, because, for example, you're sharing knowledge with them, because you were there for them, because you kept them company, and so on. And last but not least, because of the word of mouth. I feel like word of mouth is something that not a lot of people talk on the internet, but most likely if someone likes you, that person is going to recommend you with a friend or with a family member. Every time I see friends, you guys, I recommend them creators that I'm liking, and they are recommending me podcasts that they're listening or YouTube channels they're consuming. Anyway, so how can I do this? Another really important question. So give everything for free. I think that's like my first advice, and I've heard this advice before. And this doesn't mean, you guys, that you need to like open, like a like a online store and give all of your products for free. What I mean with give everything for free, I mean like tutorials, your creative process, your art process, your behind the scenes of projects that you're working on, your work experience, whether they have been nice work experience or nasty work experience. I felt like since I didn't go to university to study illustration, you guys, I felt like everything took me so long to learn and so like much to like grasp. And every time I learned something new, whether that was on freelancing or illustration or a new watercolor technique, the only thing I wanted was to share this with everybody, because I'm like, man, if I can save money and time to the person behind me, man, I wish someone could have done this with me when I started with illustration. I would have saved so much time and money, and I wanna help the people who are coming behind me. And by behind me, I mean like in terms of like timeline, you know, like younger generations or other artists and other creators. Also share about your life because people want to connect with a human. And I mean with this, like they want to know there's a person on the other side of the screen. And with this, I mean like a window into how, like, for example, like what a day of your life looks like, what makes you feel scared and vulnerable. I feel like all the creators that I enjoy watching or reading their comics or graphic novels the most, other people who are being vulnerable and just like raw and real with me. And with this, you guys, I'm not saying like you need to share every private detail of your life and like how much are you fighting with your partner and like, no. I'm sure you guys know that that's not what I'm trying to say, because you can absolutely be a super private life and like a private person online. But most of the times, the times that I feel super connected with people on the internet, it's not because necessarily I connect to what they're doing necessarily, although is a huge factor, but also because I love to see the more humane/human side of someone online, you know? So whether that's sharing, like I said, something that makes you feel scared or vulnerable or sad or insanely joyful or happy, I love to share weaknesses or just like the most flawed side of us. And obviously this is like, take it with a grain of salt. I feel like this is a huge spectrum of sharing, so you don't have to be absolutely like word vomiting your feelings in any way. But I feel like whatever makes you feel comfortable and whatever makes you feel vulnerable, it's absolutely okay. Other thing that I've noticed that helps tremendously in this on how to connect with an audience and how to build this connection is to pay attention to what truly interests you. And I feel like this is a tricky thing to balance as well, because a lot of the times I see artists or people in content, who are doing content, who are content creators, they only do what's trendy. So the latest challenges, or I don't know, like the trendiest things. And I feel like trends are amazing because they help us to get traction with lots of different audiences. They help us get noticed by other platforms and other content creators. But I feel like it's so important, you guys, to also talk about what truly interests you and makes you feel curious about, especially around topics that you think that are important to say out loud, whether that's feminism or mental health or, I don't know, cooking or veganism or politics or racism and stuff like that. Also, in the beginning, I will say that share frequently and have a schedule. I found that as we want to create, like I said, cultivate an audience, I think it's important to share frequently. And as much as you can, you guys, whether that's once a week or twice a week, that's absolutely okay. Please don't burn out over this. And what I found it useful is to have a schedule. For me, it was so much different to say, hey, I'm going to post twice a week, because twice a week was... When is twice a week really? But when I started saying, hey, I'm going to post Tuesdays and Thursdays, suddenly I had a deadline and suddenly I could start planning myself ahead. So for me, having a schedule helped me to help myself accountable and also plan ahead and around those deadlines. I understand, you guys, that this is super hard. It's hard to balance because as artists, I've realized that we have to wear a lot of hats, so to speak. Like, we are our own social media strategists. We are our own accountants. We need to find time to do commissions and keep our social media updated. Also answer emails and have maybe a personal life, maybe relax and do some exercise. And well, if we have like 10 minutes left from all of the stuff that we need to do in a week, maybe have time to do art. I tend to prioritize a lot what is happening online, like keep Patreon updated and try and do my best. This was before depression, obviously, but like try to have like a social media presence and whatnot. And I used to leave for last minute or like leave behind everything that was regarding me and my time to create art. So what I do and what I found it super useful, at least for me, you will have to find the thing that works for you. But what I've noticed is that if I look at my calendar and my planner and I see that by Wednesday or Thursday, I haven't had a good drawing session to experiment and to do art, I will immediately schedule it for that day or for the next day. Because, and this is what happens when I say to myself out loud, oh, somehow I'm going to manage to draw this week, it never happens. I've noticed that I have to actually carve out, like make the time on my week, like during my week to draw, because naturally I will fill out every gap I have with other tasks. So unless I dedicate a specific time to my week to draw, I know I won't have that drawing session. So you have to be really mindful and responsible about this. Let's talk about mental health. Yeah. You guys, welcome to the second part of this talk. I hope you went to the bathroom, you got some more snacks. So right now we're going to talk about how to stay positive with your art and yourself during hard times. And you guys, I'm not going to lie, this is hard AF. And this is hard, you guys, because, man, we're not going to be in a pandemic forever. But whether you're going through a pandemic or not, there's always going to be things happening around us. And I feel like this is especially hard for us as artists, because I feel like how we do mental health wise impacts directly on how we perform or behave around our art. So something that I've learned through therapy and in therapy so much is that the first step, I think, is to acknowledge and accept how we feel. I feel like, and I'm guilty as charged, because I tend to not accept how I feel in the beginning, and I tend to be super dismissive. And something that I learned with Jeffrey, my therapist, is that all feelings are valid, you guys. I feel like, and I believe most of my life, I've categorized some feelings under like, quote, bad feelings. So when I'm feeling jealousy or envy, or when I'm angry, when I'm sad, when I'm depressed, when I'm anxious, I've always assumed those feelings are nasty or bad feelings. And even though you can say whatever you want about those feelings, all of them are valid and all of them are happening for a reason. And I am the queen of being dismissive on myself, you guys. I'm not proud of this. This is why I'm going to therapy. But I've noticed, you guys, that even when I'm going through the hardest time in my life, I am still thinking, oh, I should be posting more, or I suck, or I haven't uploaded a video in a while, or my portfolio is the worst. Oh, look, so many artists are like posting so frequently and I'm not, and I'm comparing myself to other people. And this is not okay. So when they asked me how to stay positive, I wanted to change and like reframe this title to how to change our behavior instead, because I'm not here, you guys, to sell you like toxic positivity. And if you have no idea what toxic positivity is, it's basically when you are going through such a shitty time and someone comes over and say like, hey, but there's so many people that have it like way worse than you, blah, blah. And most of the times these like friends or family members or people online, they have like good intentions and they want you to feel grateful about what you have and like count your blessings. And I don't know, like I think sometimes it's good to hear those things, but what happens, or what ends up happening, or at least for me, is that instead of feeling like grateful about what I have, it tends to make me feel more dismissive on what I'm going through. And I feel like it's very easy to be dismissive with these things. And I don't want to make you feel in any way that staying positive is the way to go, because sometimes we need to feel the feels. And this is why the first step, and I feel it's important to say it aloud, is to feel the feels, whether that's angry or anger, or if you're feeling sad or jealousy or envy. The only way, you guys, and it took me so long to understand this, but the only way to make that feeling go away is to sit down and just feel it. I know it's super basic what I'm saying right now and super obvious, but sometimes we need to stay quiet without our phones and just like see how it feels and see where in your body feels. This is something that I'm trying to be more mindful about, like where does it feel? And this allows us to process things. I've always I don't know, I know it sounds super silly to say it out loud, but every time I was feeling sadness or anger or these quote bad feelings, I went through my phone and I'm like, no, I'm gonna distract myself and that way is going to go away. No, that's not the way it's going to go away. You need to feel the feel and accept that it's there. The second thing is let it all out, whether that's journaling or talk to a friend or quote meet your peers. And I put meet in quotes because right now, because of the pandemic, we can't meet anyone. But what I mean with this, for example, journaling, as you guys know, I started journaling this year, 3 pages every morning. And it's been such a nice outlet for to do word vomiting and to repeat myself over and over and over again as many times as I want, because the journal is not going to judge you. You can repeat that thing that your friend Jessica did to you 1,000,000 times, and the journal is not going to be tired of you listening to what Jessica did to you. So you can do it as many times as you want, and it's so nice to bring all of this turmoil outside in a really nice and healthy way. I found that also talking to a friend helps a lot. And by meeting peers, I meant that sometimes we are going and struggling with things that only peers and people in the industry can understand better than a friend. You guys, I don't know if you have this, but I have friends who they don't have social media. I have a friend, one of my closest friends in Chile, she doesn't have Twitter or Instagram. So every time I talk to her about social media, I feel like there's a gap that she will never understand what I mean with social media and or I don't know, the pain of dealing with a client or a commission or my online store. So I feel like peers, sometimes they get our issues and struggles in a different level, and a level that sometimes our friends and family members that will never understand. Not because they don't love us, it's just that because they don't do this for a living. And also use envy as a way to know what you want. This is, you guys, so precious. But a couple of years ago, I read this book by Amber Ray called Wonder Over Worry. Turn Wonder Over Worry. I'm going to leave it down below. And in that book, Amber Ray talks about, my friend Amber, we're not friends, but she talks about the importance of using envy as a way to know what you want. So this year in therapy, I learned that jealousy is when you're afraid of losing someone. This is why you feel jealous about your friend or about your partner, is because you're afraid of losing someone, like a person. And envy is what you want something that the other person has and you don't. Such a mind-blowing difference, am I right? So anyway, every time I feel like I'm comparing myself to someone, or every time I feel envious about other person, I'm okay, what is happening here, friend? And I start listing down, you guys, all of the reasons as specific as I can of why I'm feeling envious towards this person. And it happens to me really frequently, actually, like a couple of times a year, in which I feel envious about like a certain content creator or a certain artist. And I'm like, okay, why am I feeling envious about this artist? And then I started writing down like, oh, she does, I don't know, live streams weekly and I'm not doing live streams. Oh, the way she connects with her audience is really, really like particular and nice. Her online store graphics, like the visual side of her online store is amazing. And then the more specific you go, the more you understand what you want. And so this is why we need to reframe what like quote bad feelings are, because even envy is such a useful tool. But I just learned this year, you guys. So I wanted to share that with you. Also, no judgment during the process. I feel like if you went in through like a surgery room, I mean, why you will do that in the first place? But a doctor is doing like open heart surgery and you're like, hey, doctor, you're doing all of this wrong. And I don't know, she's like, hey, first of all, get out of my operation room. And second of all, I'm not done. You need to finish until I'm done. This is the same thing, you guys, with you and your process. I feel like I'm starting to have like a zero judgment policy around when I'm sketching or when I'm working, because it's so easy to be that asshole person towards yourself who is criticizing and judging you where you're not even done doing the sketch or the drawing or the illustration. A couple of months ago, I started this thing called an ugly sketchbook, and I'm not being like an asshole to myself saying like, oh, all my sketches are ugly. It's just like a way of reframing my sketchbook in a way of saying, hey, even if this sketch is ugly, it's okay. And it's so refreshing, you guys, to have a judgment-free zone, because I've never had that in the past. And I'm saying the past like a couple of months ago, before my ugly sketchbook, before I placed the pencil onto the paper, I was already having huge expectations of what the sketch was going to look like and had to look like, and how amazing this thing had to be and whatnot. And this was like even before starting, I was already putting like all of this pressure, all of these expectations. And of course, after this, all of these expectations were so hard to meet that I was always feeling disappointed. I was feeling super insecure, super nervous. The blank page was terrifying to me. And now doing this, like having an ugly sketchbook, has been a huge weight off my shoulders. Also, making great art is also resting and having fun. I feel, you guys, and this is super personal, you can absolutely disagree with me on this, but being an artist means that you need to rest. This is part of our job. Since we're working with creativity and with feelings and vulnerability and our mental health, part of our job means that we need to have fun. Part of our job means that we need to water the creative plant, so to speak, or the inspiration plant. I always see creativity as a plant that has to be watered. And is your duty, and I'm saying this in a super serious, harsh way, but is your duty as an artist to go to museums, to go to watch movies, to go to parks, to travel, whether that's, go to a park, go to another neighborhood, whatever it is that helps you to water this creative plant, is your duty to do it. Most of my the ideas that I loved and liked the most have been thought out or have come to me while I was in the shower or talking to Ed or laughing or watching a dumb movie or watching the 4th season of like America's Next Top Model. Like they happen when I'm resting. They happen when I'm having fun, when I'm switching from work life to personal, like resting life. And even though it's important to work hard and not to procrastinate, it's equally important to rest and to have fun, because that's where our minds rest. That's when we recharge, and that's when we can create better work. And last but not least, and I don't know if this is any consolation for you, you're not alone. And the idea that we're all going through all of this together collectively in some way is a huge relief, at least for me, and I'm hoping this is also a huge relief for you as well. So when they asked me to do this part of the presentation, I was actually really nervous because even though I have worked abroad and I have moved a couple of times in my life, and I've been able to to do freelancing from lots of parts in the world, I have never, you guys, studied through Zoom. I have never done what you're doing. And I'm saying you are doing because when I did the talk at SVA, all of my entire audience were students. And even though I can relate to them, I have never studied online. So I did my best to find common areas between all of this. And I found that when you're studying or working abroad, there's common things happening. So for example, we're all working from home now. We're all spending most, if not all of the time from home now. We're doing lots of hours sitting on our asses most of the day, if not all day. We're also feeling anxious or feeling inadequate. This is something that I experienced when I moved abroad for the first time, in which I feel like I had no idea what I was doing, and I felt like everybody knew what they were doing, and I felt very inadequate and awkward. And also, we are now responsible for our own schedule, which was something that before living abroad and before being a freelancer, I had no idea how to do. So here are some tips and mistakes that I have done throughout the years and that I would love to share with you. So the first thing that I've noticed that was really important for me was to designate a working space / corner / room for me to be able to work. Because our minds, you guys, they need this invisible but really important line in which when we're sitting down in this room or in this desk or in this corner, we need to tell our minds that the work has begun, like the working day has begun. I feel like it's important to designate working and resting areas. And this is very similar to the first point that I was talking to you guys about, but the end of your work day routine is super important as well. I feel like since we're humans and we're conditioned to routines, we need to let our bodies know that the workday has ended. And I found that when we're working and living and going through our lives in the same space, it's hard to have this buffer. So in the past, before pandemic or before being freelancers and before working online, there was ways in which we can tell our bodies that the workday or the studying day was over, whether that was because we were commuting from one day to the other. We had that buffer of time. We could unwind on a bus or on the subway or walking. And now I feel like we don't have that buffer. So to me, that buffer is super important because I need that space in time, that window, like that frame, that time frame in which I'm saying to my body, hey, we're done working, we're not working anymore. So that could be, for example, taking a shower. I love taking the shower in the evenings and I feel like I'm washing my day off of me. Or I'm going on a walk, for example, without my phone. A lot of people do yoga or meditate in order to break their day in half. So whatever works for you, I feel like this routine is super important. Also, respect breaks and work hours. Oh man, if I could start with guilt. So I am a very guilty person. Something that my mom passed on to me was her very long legs and guilt. So thanks, Mom. But jokes aside, I feel like sometimes I enter to, I go into this very vicious circle in which I feel like I'm procrastinating a lot and I'm not having a very productive, mindful day around work. So when it's time for me to rest, I feel guilty because I'm resting. So what I've noticed, you guys, is that the more I respect my working hours, the more I respect my breaks. And something that I've noticed that has been working a lot for me, especially when I don't want to work, or I don't feel like working, or I don't feel like being productive, is the Pomodoro method, which I'm sure you guys have heard a bunch of times. But basically, Pomodoro is a time management method created by this Italian guy, and it's called Pomodoro because he was using his kitchen timer in the shape of a tomato, so that's Pomodoro in Italian, as a way to program, or basically said, okay, during this next 25 minutes, I'm going to work without any distractions whatsoever, and then I'm going to rest for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to work for 25 minutes, and then I'm going to rest for 5 minutes. And even though you can tweak your working times and your resting times as much as you want, the Pomodoro method helps you to be mindful about your working hours and more respectful about your break moments as well, your break times, I guess. You can use Pomodoro, by the way, with any timer that you want. There's so many apps and add-ons for Chrome or apps for your phone that are for free. And I highly suggest using it. I don't use it every single day, but I use it especially when I don't feel like working, or when I've been avoiding doing something for many, many days or weeks. And when I need concentration and focus, I use Pomodoro, and it's a lifesaver. Also, part of working and studying abroad and being a freelancer in general means that we're now finally our own bosses, and that we're managing our own times. And this was a huge discovery for me, you guys, because I feel like we have been so wired since we were kids to have a certain working structure, like waking up super early to go to school, and then in university, things tend to change around in terms of schedule. And suddenly, a lot of my friends discover that they're actually way more creative during nighttime because they enjoy the quiet times of, when people are sleeping, and they found that they can write and create art better during nighttime. I, in the other hand, realized that I am way more creative during the morning. I love mornings. I've always been a morning person. And now that I can tailor my schedule around my more creative hours, you are responsible to find where and when you are more creative. So it's something that usually takes a couple of years to figure out, because like I said, we're wired from early years, I guess, to function in a certain schedule. And now we're in charge to, discover and find out when we function best, so to speak. And also, I found that it's very important to be open and flexible to move things around. Like I said, you guys, I believe that as artists, how we behave and how to perform art-wise is very intertwined with our mental health and stress and how we're doing emotionally. And I feel like when we're going through a very hard time, is important and paramount to, I love that word, to be mindful and to be compassionate around ourselves, especially this year, especially going through a pandemic. And I've noticed that if I'm going through a bad time, or now that I'm suffering from depression and I'm facing and battling depression, I found that there are days, you guys, in which I genuinely cannot do art. So it's important to be open and flexible. There's nothing wrong, you guys. You're not a failure if you change your schedule, even though it's nice to plan ahead and to be like, okay, on Wednesday morning, I have to do the art because on Thursday I have this and this. But it's okay to change things around how you feel. So if I'm feeling more depressed than usual, or if I feel like I can't concentrate and I can't do creative work, I will change things around, sort of like doing more admin work, like answering emails, cleaning my desk, or doing some backing up filing session or whatnot. And also take your time to adapt. In the beginning, you guys, when I moved abroad, I was super harsh on myself, and I had this very strict and tight timeline in which I wanted to be ready and sort of I always expected to be settled and ready to go right away from the beginning. And right now that we're tackling so many things, and again, not because of the pandemic, because since now for the first time we're working more from home and we need to organize our lives around this whole thing, I find that it's super important to take your time to adapt, to take the time to regroup, and to lower your expectations about when to be settled down or when to be ready to function. You know what I'm saying? So I like to remind people about this because sometimes, like I said, we have very strict timelines on when we have to be ready, and these things take time to adjust and to adapt. Last but not least, I would love to talk about how to be more environmentally conscious as an artist and as a store owner. So a couple of years ago, I will say 12 years ago, I started questioning a lot about where food comes from. And this might be a surprise for you, maybe not, but I'm vegan. So 12 years ago, I transitioned into being vegetarian. And then 2 years later, I went fully on veganism. And I am so happy I did. But I feel like with veganism and where food comes from and how the food that we consume it's produced, I feel like I started doing this and I started to feel curiosity around everything around me. So it started with food, but then it slowly snowballed into everything else, like where my clothes come from and the stuff that I bought came from. And I feel like questioning all of these things, you guys, is super important, especially right now, because I feel like us artists, we have an important voice in the community, because visual communication is one of the strongest and most universal ways to convey our beliefs to people. And I don't know if you agree with this or not, you guys. This is absolutely personal, but I feel like the visual aspect of something is universal. No matter what language you speak, there's something about illustrations and comics and graphic novels that reach so many people. So I believe now as artists, we're expected to voice our thoughts and get active on social matters. This is Black Lives Matter, feminism, the environment, politics, the way we shop, the way we eat. And this is not only how we behave on social media, because now as artists, people want to know where we stand. People want to know how, what we think about certain aspects, but not only on social media, but also through our work. And this is something that I am so happy this is happening with our generation, you guys, with millennials and Gen Zs, because we're now questioning more and more and more everything around us. I would love to know your thoughts on the comment section about how you feel about this, if the art and the artists are linked or intertwined. I know this might be like a super controversial thing to talk about, but every time I am getting to know a person, or every time I'm meeting friends and family members, this is one of the things that I love to talk about the most, because is the artist linked with the art? Or the other way around, is the art linked with the artists? And I'm gonna say my opinion right away, and you can absolutely disagree, you guys. My answer is yes. To me, the art and the artists are heavily intertwined, because the way how I perceive at least my art and what I like to talk about is heavily linked on how am I, or who I am as a person, as a human being, my beliefs, my core values. So for me, it's very hard to make that distinction. To me, both things are heavily intertwined. And in the beginning, you guys, I felt like I have nothing to say through my work. And I remember I got this question a couple of months ago from a patron, actually. And she told me, hey, Fran, I'm struggling because in her own voice she said that she find that her work was super interesting visually, but she was struggling because she thought she had nothing to say. There was no message or content through her work. And I remember, you guys, I felt exactly the same in the beginning of my work. And I remember I talked to Ed about this, and we had like an argument in the beginning, because like a creative argument, because he was saying, hey, Fran, like, what do you want to say? What is like your voice, like your opinion as an artist? And I'm like, I don't have any, and I think it's okay. Because I want people to have like a break from life when they see my work. And it's okay if you want to do like beautiful work that has no message whatsoever. And genuinely, I felt, you guys, that I had nothing to say. But as the years went by, I started feeling more naturally interested in topics that I've never questioned myself, and I've never had done any research. So feminism, mental health, like politics and race. And in the beginning, I felt so awkward talking about this, because I felt like I feel like I'm so ignorant, you guys, around these subjects. And I started reading and watching videos and informing myself about this, because I wanted to have my own opinion. And slowly but surely, I started talking about this in my own personal way. I believe that now more than ever, people want to know where you stand, you guys. And by people, I mean the people who are the people who are following you on Twitter, on Instagram, on social media, the people who are following your work, but also the customer. So if you're offering any type of service, or if you have an online store, people want to know where you stand in terms of values, in terms of moral code, your core values. What do you think about all of this? And not also that, but they also want to know where things are coming from, where you're printing your stationery, if the packaging that you're using is environmentally friendly, if it's compostable, if it's biodegradable, if it's recyclable. And I feel like this is the reason why I love our generation so much, not only millennials and Gen Zs, but everybody who is habitating or alive right now in this earth. We're now questioning and asking these questions now more than ever because of this. And I feel like us artists and store owners, we have a duty to figure out where we stand. And my loves, this is like, I say this from the bottom of my heart. There's nothing wrong with to not know where you stand. I remember, like I said, a couple of years ago, I had no idea what to believe and what to think, because I felt super ignorant around these subjects. I felt like I had no idea where to start or what to read, and there were all of these things happening at the same time. And I'm like, oh, I feel so like weird talking about these subjects, because I feel like I don't know what to say and like where to begin. And people are way more understanding than what we think they're going to be. So there's nothing wrong with not knowing where to stand and what you think about these things. But part of our duties as artists and store owners is that we need to be clear about this, and we need to be very vocal about social issues and issues around the environment. I believe that we attract like-minded people, and if it matters to you, you guys, it's going to matter to them as well. So thank you so much for being here in this talk. I can't wait to read your comments and to see what you think about all of this, especially if for you the art and the artists are heavily linked and intertwined. And I can't wait to read what you think. And thank you so much for being here and for supporting me. I'm so freaking grateful that you exist and that you're here. So happy Thanksgiving, you guys, and please take care. And yeah, I love you so much. Bye.